He's going to talk with us about
Awesome.
Phoenix Rising, how to increase your competitive advantage as a UX designer. William Ntim is a senior UX designer at PayPal. He has spent nearly a decade leading, creating, and launching design solutions at small to large sized corporations, including the Home Depot, HostGator, Farouk Systems, Cornell University, Zervita, and Boom Writer. William is a critical thinker with a front-end development background, a founder, speaker, and coach. In his downtime, he enjoys mentoring junior to mid-level designers on best practices and the realities of a UX practitioner. All right, I'm going to turn off my camera. I'm sure you will too, Darren.
Yes.
We'll be in the background watching and enjoying your speech.
Awesome. Thank you, Randy. I got to get a one of those caps like yours for sure, but let me share my screen and then I think. Okay, so I assume you can see my screen now. I think I'm presenting. Let me do presentation.
Yep, we do see your screen. Yep, it's all ready to go.
Okay, perfect, awesome. All right, so we're gonna be talking about Phoenix Rising. That's just a little, statement to really lead us into what the topic, what the idea behind our talk today. The goal is to dive into how to increase your competitive competitive advantage as a UX designer. Not your competitive analysis, because you don't want to do that. But there are so many questions that we get as senior UX designers that really, I think it allows us to see things clearly and also from a different perspective. Because just only a few years ago, we were mid-level or junior designers ourselves, and then now all of a sudden we have a few more. Sorry about that. There's a luggage removed, but now we have a few more years under our belt, which really is going to allow us to really give back and also do good work, right? To stand out above the competition. So how did we achieve this feat? Were we able to set ourselves apart in order to, to garner this type of, I guess, response or success, quote unquote? I'm hesitant to use that word, but we're going to use that word anyway, because it is a lot of work to really, get into that place of UX design and cross all those bridges. So we're going to celebrate that today. We're not going to be shy about it at all. So that's the important part there. So pardon the background and all that. If you guys can hear me, I have my AirPods on to try to do some noise canceling, but nonetheless, say that again.
I said you're coming through loud and clear. We're all good.
Oh, okay, awesome, sweet. So yeah, we're gonna dive in, and so this talk is divided into two parts. I'm going to talk about some mental disciplines, and then I'll also have some action items for us to really take home and execute. The first part will be the mental disciplines, and we're just going to dive in. So how can you really become a competitive UX designer, right? That's a big question. The first step, this is the core. This sits at the core of everything. The first step is to accept your reality. Now, what I mean by that is, as you can see here, you have everything it takes, okay? And I'm not gonna read verbatim, but it starts with you. So you being the focal point to realize and actually grasp the reality of, I can be that designer. I can be that thought leader that I like, the influencer, UX design influencer that I follow. I can be the UX guru that I look up to. You have what it takes, but it's gonna require you to really accept that and then actually be honest and true to yourself before you can even begin anything. So this talk is gonna be useless if you're not able to grasp this mental reality, right? Because you can do it. Like, all of us on this panel, we started somewhere, right? And you're probably at that stage, or even if you're mid-level, you can also achieve that feat. So this is where it starts. Let's get you to understand that it's your reality. You have what it takes. You are able. Yes, you can achieve that. Okay. So that's the first part. And then the next part is going to be the destination aspect. When I say how can you become a competitive UX designer, that really has a lot of variations to it in the sense of what does that mean to you, right? So what does that mean to you as a UX designer? It's important for you to define that clearly, to define it precisely, because that's going to really affect and shape the way you proceed henceforth. Okay. So what's the destination? What does that success look like for you? What does the uh, definition of being a competitive UX designer mean to you? Somebody might say, well, I want to be able to have job security. That's being competitive to me, you know, or I want to be, I want to get promoted. I want to earn a promotion, or I want to be able to lead a team and move on to the next level in my career. Whatever that definition is, you have to be able to define it. If you don't know where you're going, it's going to be hard to get there because you won't even know when you actually arrive, right? So that's important for us to do that. We're going to move on to the third mental discipline here, which is I like this one a lot because this part is to bridge the expectation gap. Now, all my talks, I'm always honest. Like I keep it, you know, I give you what it is in its fullness. So you're gonna have some realities, you're gonna have some honesties, and just it's just gonna be authentic. Like, look, this is what it is. I wouldn't butter anybody up, but you're gonna have to bridge that expectation gap. This whole journey, this whole talk and idea of okay, achieving UX success or uh, you know being a competitive designer, it's not gonna happen overnight. Um, but it's gonna take a mental discipline to understand that okay, this is gonna take time. This is going to be a journey that I'm about to embark on. And you know, the reason why these mental disciplines matter is that you cannot do anything outside of yourself. You have to start here. And that's the part that I feel like a lot of UX designers miss. So bridge the expectation gap, mentally understand, okay, it's going to take some time, but remember, we already talked about you being able to achieve that, you being able to reach that goal. But now let's face the reality, it's going to take time. Now you have that out of the way. The next step is to define your why, like your reason for choosing UX as a profession. Um, I feel like a lot of designers these days don't even know why they selected UX. Many designers are just like, oh yeah, I heard it's a great field to be in, and it pays well, and you know, it seems easy, pretty easy enough, so they're gonna join. That's flawed. That's not gonna help you. You're not gonna last because the journey is long. It's very involving. We'll talk a little bit about that as well coming up. But define your why. Why did you join UX? Why did you choose UX, user experience, as a profession? It could be any type of UX, but as a whole, why did you get here, or how did you get here? For me, I was a graphic designer initially. My degree is in applied science, so I did graphic design, I did web, I did video, so all the multimedia types, right? But then I found my passion in the human computer interaction aspect. And I started as a kid as an artist. So I would draw my mom and you know hang it on the wall, etc. So there's that art, that passion, creativity, passion. That's my reason. That's my why. But for you, it's going to be helpful if you can define that, even if it's just for job security or just for money or whatever. Like you can say, look, I just wanted a better paying job. That's okay. Like we're not, you know, you're not going to be blamed for it or shamed for it. But you have to understand that those reasons are going to require you to do certain things, right? Because, okay, if you want job security, well, this is what the job takes. This is what the job entails. This is what the journey entails. So are you ready to get to that, that destination there. So that's the why. Why did you choose UX? Answer this question honestly, and you're ready to begin the rest of your career life. So this is where, once you get that, look in the mirror, get that right, because it will fuel your next steps, right? If it's just creativity, it's gonna make it easier uh, on the next steps for you. Or if it's just the money aspect, the salary aspect, that's also gonna fuel your next steps, because um, if the next position is going to pay you lower than what you're making now, that it probably wouldn't make sense, right? So then at that point, you might decide, you know what, this is probably not worth it for me, and you might want to excuse yourself. But the underlying point of this is, be honest with yourself. Let's meet ourselves here, and then once we can do that, we can proceed to the next phase of this. So there are 5 mental disciplines that I'm talking about. This is the last one, and this is to choose your track. A lot of junior designers just put UX, UI designer, UI, UX designer. It's great. I mean, generalism is fine too, right? But I think it's best if you're able to decide on, even if you decide on being a journalist, that's a decision, right? So it's the point is to decide on um, on how to align your passion, your interest with UX as a broad discipline or as a track. So we have like industry specific user experience, right? So you have education technology, ed tech, you have learning experience designers, now you have voice UI designers, you have conversational design, it just goes on. You have UX research, which is its own track. So decide, well, not just deciding, but do your research, figure out your passions, figure out your performance, right? If you took a class, or if you're taking a class, align all those elements into your strengths and figure out, okay, well, this seems to be what I do best and what I enjoy doing. So I'm gonna align myself with that. Is it finance? For me, I'm really loving finance right now. PayPal is amazing. So I think probably, like I'm done. I feel like finance is it for me, right? I'm gonna stick with the finance track. So but outside of like the major buckets of like research, experience design, interaction design, there are all these, like industry specific and, you know, uh, different deeper tracks and verticals within the discipline. So do some research, get that in there. And once you're able to align yourself and be at peace with the decision you've made on the direction to go in, then you've completed your mental disciplines, your 5 mental disciplines, and you can begin taking some action items on next steps. So we're going to look at the first action item that I want to talk about. Now, these are going to be practical tips during during this presentation. So we're going to start with soft skills. And I'm sure you've heard about this everywhere, and you've probably seen articles and messages about it and all that. That's great, but start with the soft skills. I just thought of the first thing that came into my mind right now is like anger and frustration and self-control, because there are going to be a lot of times where you would be required to to be self-disciplined enough, right, in order to not lose your cool, to not uh, you know in a professional setting, there's certain things that can be done tastefully differently. So you have all these different skills that fall under soft skills, right? It's that patience, it's that the I want to say poise, but I don't know if that's a good word for it. But um, your ability to really, uh, I guess, be human, right, with your team members, with your boss, etc. Just those interpersonal skills of um, human relations and just people, your people skills. Um, are you enjoyable to work around? Are you, are you a great collaborator, team member, and et cetera? So it take out the educational aspect of UX and then think about the human aspect. So the human aspect being, how do you relate one-on-one with somebody else, or even as a group? Like, are you someone that people enjoy being around, like I said? And if so, then you're headed in the right path. But if there are a few things that you need to work on, even with the social skills aspect, like, your comments and maybe the words you use, etc. This goes really deep into the interpersonal skills aspect of it. But this is going to be the underlying factor, a major underlying factor to your success, because the skills are great. You can use Figma, that's wonderful, but do you have those soft skills to support that? Because that will come through in your interviews, it will come through in your phone screenings. I mean, the hiring manager is recruiting you for your phone screen, your soft skills through phone, and then the next person up is going to be assessing that through the Zoom calls and the video calls, and on your next phases of the interview process, etc. So all through your interviews, you're being assessed, and you're being kind of like they're learning about you, and how you solve problems, not just what you tell them, but how you're even speaking about it, and kind of the perspective you're using, etc. You just want to be an all-around good human, whatever that means. But I know I'm speaking to someone. So so the next action item I have is to read, to learn, and explore. And I realize that this is like three different things, but I didn't want this to be too lengthy, and there's still a lot ways to go here. But read, let's just read books. Like, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to reading and to books until I started digging deeper into myself, and I started loving writing as a skill, as a practice. And then I was like, oh wait, writing is cool. Like, I get to put down my thoughts. This is awesome, right? And then I dug deeper into, well, sentence compositions, and I mean, I was raised in Ghana, went to school, went to college, and all that. So that's great, but it's just when you decide to write, there are things you need to learn, right? So you start learning, you start digging deeper, and it's completely, it's related to UX, but it's still kind of like an add-on skill that you can have, and attach to what you already have in UX. So the reading aspect, dig into books that are going to be educational, helpful, and you're learning as you're doing that. But and also with the tools, tools that that are coming out every day. But this action item really is about curiosity. Your allow your curiosity to go wild, to flow. And there's an example that I'm going to give. Um, in a meeting during an ask, right, during a requirement, you could get an idea um, from an app that you saw, right? Like maybe 2 months ago, or an idea that you heard of, or a theory, or a statement you saw somewhere. It's just the moment you allow your curiosity to just go wild, you open yourself up, you open your mind up to learn and absorb our world around us, because it's moving so fast. There's so many things happening in so many different industries, so many different buckets of things. I mean, right now I'm sure you've heard of, oh, crypto is doing this and that, and then you have, like, there are wars happening, and that's like a little bit of a wider scope, a little bit more of a wider scope than are just, oh, UX is just me and the computer. But like, go wild, like, explore, right? Because the moment you do that, you're educating yourself on just life lessons, life um, um, just life functionalities, and just the weird things around us that it takes a competitive designer to know. Because even in an interview, something might come up. Your hiring manager might be that one, weird person who also knows about some weird random fact, and you guys connect on that. And I can't tell you enough, that could be your end to just connecting with somebody, or even a hiring manager, or just a team member, whatever it is. But just broaden your scope, learn, explore, and you'd be surprised at all the fun, cool things you find in our world today. So, and as far as bringing it back down to technology, you have the trends, you have, I mean, companies are building incredible technology, even with, HCI and UX, and just keep digging and keep learning, keep commenting, be a part of the conversation, because it's going to help you up here when it comes time to use it. The third action item is, oh, so now we've done mental disciplines, we've done, 2 action items. Now you can practice. Because I know when you hear, oh, how to be a competitive designer, it's like, oh, well, you got to be good. That's great. You have to be good. But you have to do all these things that I mentioned before we get even into like the actual practice part. So this practice is just what it is. You have to keep working. I have 10 years now of experience, and I'm still learning. I'm still practicing because my day-to-day job is still practice, right? But you can still, I feel like you can still achieve a similar feat without having to spend 10 years doing it, right? So you can still really achieve, achieve that if you practice enough, if you work hard enough. Not maybe not like the same thing. I don't want to undermine the years of experience, because there's still a lot that you're not going to know. But if you set up your mind to practice, to work, what that does for you is it actually helps you know yourself, in the sense of knowing your speed, your capabilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, which will come handy. Now, that little note at the bottom here, I'm glad I put that there. I was in a podcast, I think 2 days ago or something, with Kadeen, and it'll be posted sometime soon. But we talked about over delivering, which is also one of the action items. I think it's the last one, and then under promising, etc. But if you practice enough, right? Because what comes with experience is that we're able to be precise in our predictions of task completion or project completion when it comes to design, or close enough. So when you have an ask, I could tell you, hey, it's going to take me about 3 days to finish this. Okay, good. And that I actually mean 3 days. But a junior designer might not necessarily know how to time that. Well, how do I know if it's going to take me 3 hours or 4 hours? You practice, right? And that's where this comes in handy, because the moment you have all these learnings about yourself, about your speed, your work, your strengths, all that, then when you get into a workplace or when you get into a project scenario, you can make that assertion and say, oh yeah, I can, I should be able to finish it in 4 days. Okay. And if the PM is like, well, I need this tomorrow, you can honestly say it's not possible, because I have to do the XYZ. Just in your mind, you've already pre-calculated it. But the other benefit of that is it also allows you to use that to your advantage. So since I know that this project can be completed on Friday, well, today is what? I think I lost track. So today is Wednesday. So let's say the project will be completed on Saturday, realistically. But you can make a promise and say, hey, I'll get it delivered on Sunday, right? Because mentally, you did the math, okay, I can finish it by Saturday, but let me tell them Sunday. So then you're not over promising, you're giving yourself just a little wiggle room, but it is good time, enough time for the PM or the client to understand, to also make a plan around that. And unless something tragic happens, you're going to fulfill it, right? Because this is how much time it's going to take you. Now, then the best part comes in, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. And once we get there, we'll just talk about it again. The best part about this is that this action item is you're going to be able to over deliver, quote unquote, because if you told them Sunday, but you can finish it by Saturday, mentally you can do that. They agree on Sunday, but then you come through and you say, hey, by the way, I was able to get this done earlier than promised. Here are the files. That's just like a little icing on top. It's like whipped cream or cherry or whatever on top of your whole performance, right? Because you can do this in your full-time jobs too. You give an estimate based on how much time it's going to take. And then you can, add a little surprise and say, oh, I can do it maybe an hour earlier or 2 hours or a day, whatever it is. That starts it starts creating some pretty cool nods and just affinity to you and your work that way. So now let's jump forward to communication and speaking. I joined I've always loved the camera and all that. So being a kid, I've been in the space, just like playing with it a lot. But I think for someone who's not really familiar with speaking and like being in front of people, presentations, etc., you you're gonna have to practice and learn it, because it is a whole discipline on its own, right? It is a whole it's an art. So speaking and communication is an art, and there are ways to be better at it. So there are online courses that are available there. You can practice peer with your friends, peer to peer. Just create little groups, even among junior designers or mid-level or even seniors. Like, hey, can we just create something where we get together monthly and just pick a topic and speak on it 15 minutes each, whatever. That's how you get better. And then also there's Toastmasters. I'm not being paid for this, and none of us are, but it's a great local organization that you can join, and you'll be able to like practice speaking, real speaking, because they have all these guidelines that will guide you to becoming a better speaker or Toastmaster. But it's really fun once you get into like speaking, and you can speak in front of people without getting. You might still get a little like tickled, but it's not going to be as bad as where you started, where you were too shy, etc. But you're going to need that speaking and communication skills in your UX career. So because you're going to be presenting designs and projects to broader teams, to interconnected teams, even to team members or your boss. Like, you have to be able to present that well, and be able to just deliver, maybe I want to say impeccably, but I don't want to put too much pressure, but still just deliver. Just be excited about what you're doing, and be able to sell it, right? There's a little bit of sales in there as well. But that's the action item for communication and speaking. And these are all the courses, free courses out there. You can take their videos on YouTube, you can watch and practice, etc. Use your mirror to your advantage. I mean, we all do it. So the fifth action item is to fall in love with research and data. Your love for data will make it easier for you to survive pushbacks and the realities of the UX profession. So I really hated data. I hated research and all that. And honestly, I just love to create beautiful things, and that was kind of how I saw life. And then I realized that, well, the beautiful things might not necessarily hold water or be able to hold water. So fall in love with research. Just if you're not already in love with it, spend some time just trying to understand what what role that it plays in our career. And then the moment you're able to get that, I think you start seeing it differently. You start seeing data differently, and you get excited when you have some data, right? Because you know that you can take that data and deliver something that's going to be it's going to be useful, something that's going to be helpful and functional, efficient. Because if you're creating an interface and it's just something that's that you just created out of prettiness or just visual satisfaction, then you're lacking on the efficiency and the function aspect. But if you have some data to support that or to validate that, it makes it easier, because you're building something that's actually going to work. It's a whole different feeling when you're able to start creating products in that category. That, wow, this really is something that's working as intended. It's kind of like like Steve Jobs and his team creating the iPhone and realizing, wow, like people love it, this is working. It's a whole different feeling. And if you think just creating something, taking a blank artboard and making it turning that into an interface is a good feeling, you have yet to experience this. So take a stab at that and be intentional about this, because it's going to help you in the long run there down the road. And then this is that under promise but over deliver example I was talking about. But it's going to take you understanding your process, and that phrase right there. Once you understand your process, so understand your process. I I could give a whole hour, an hour speech on that, because your process is unique to you. There's this. We have the baseline process, right? Which is key, right? Because research is important, your iterations, your design, discovery, all of those are important. But for you as an individual, first of all, you have to master that basic process, right? And then understanding and all that. But the more you work, the more you practice, you start creating your own process. It's not necessarily one that conflicts with the standard process or the best practices, but it's one that enhances it, one that makes it faster, that makes you faster, that makes you more efficient, it makes you more confident because it's unique to you, right? You made some updates, you made some tweaks to it, and it's really a competitive advantage over other designers. In my portfolio, I talk about it. I'm like, I talk about the basic process, and then I talk about my process, and I talk about what it normally looks like. So it's something that you can hone in on and really use to your advantage even in interviews or just on the job, because you can speak on it. You can it's flexible enough where you can update it and tweak it as the project demands. So keep that in mind. But that would help you over deliver because you understand yourself, you understand your process. You can under promise. Under promise, see, don't take that word very just for lack of a better term, but don't under promise in the sense of, well, oh, I can't deliver, because you don't want to hurt your reputation as well. So it's that word is only there to help you kind of process the definition of figure out what you can do and how much time you can do it, and then um, promise that, but then beat that, right? So it's like beating your own price, because there are all these retailers that would say, oh yeah, if you find a lower price somewhere else, just call me and I'll match it. Well, what if the lower price is with you? Are you gonna beat it? So that's kind of the fun part there. But yeah, just learn yourself, learn your process, your patterns, all of that, and then use that to your advantage, right there. So, and then the number 7 here, action item, is to present beautiful work. This part gets me excited just talking about it, because I think um, there is a little lack of like pretty work. Not even pretty. I won't use the word pretty. I'll say beautiful work, and work in prototype. So beautiful work means work is visually appealing, right? It's like incredible. Like it's just a beauty to look at. That's important. But in order to be able to achieve that, you have to practice. You have, you got to get in down and dirty in order to get better at visual design, right? Um, that is a competitive advantage, right? Believe it or not, the experience is equally as important, but then also the competitive advantage is someone who has the experience angle with good visual design, right? That's going to be a little edge over others in that same category. So keep that in mind. Don't underestimate it, and keep pushing the envelope when it comes to like visual design, because there's a lot of cool things that are coming out. Not necessarily buying into every trend, but just be in the mix, be in the conversation, be a part of the conversation, and try things out, test things out. It's all about curiosity, because even through that, you might develop something, you might build something, you might come up with a better option, and that's really how you grow, right? So that's the first part of this action item, and the second part is the work in prototypes. This is an edge over others. When you If you have the time on your projects, provide working prototypes. Using like Envision or any tool. I mean, I think so. Envision is currently the only one I can think about, but I think Sketch allows you to do something like that, and Adobe XD also allows you to do something like that. But um, but create working prototypes where you can, and I can't see any chat or anything. So if there's anything happening there, I'll probably dive in afterwards. But if you're able to create working prototypes where you can click through to explain, how a feature might function, it just gives you an edge over others, right? Because it's easy to explain, it's very comprehensible, and it adds really a nice touch to your work, to your whole your whole ability, right? So keep that in mind. And let me see. I think this subtitle here, effective UX is the goal, but make it aesthetically pleasing. And if you can, okay, so that's the same thing I just said. But yeah, so that's the 7th action item there. And then I think, oh, there's more. Okay. So then, let me see, is it? Oh, it's 10. All right. So the 8th one is to present a variety of options. Now, this is a little trick though. And, that's the whole point, right? Just to give you guys competitive advantage. So this part is, sometimes when I work, I would create the main one that I know is the solution, or I believe is the solution. And then if I have a little bit of time, I'll make a couple more variations of that. But still keeping the core experience, the core ultimate experience proposal that I'm proposing, and say, hey, so this is what I think. And then, so in the presentation is just one. And then it's like, oh, but wait, there's more. Well, I actually, I put in some more time and I created 2 more variations of it. It's literally just a copy and paste, but you're changing a few variables there to give another perspective, another option. And stakeholders love it because then they feel like they're part of the process. They feel like they matter, because then they can also talk about it. But guess what? You're still the one in control, because you're the one who created all 3 options. So yes, they may be choosing, but you already did all that choosing for them. Say, hey, these are your options. You can only choose. You're in control, but you can only choose from these options. So that's a good way to. It's not like really a bad thing, because if you're designing with the good data and everything and using the right process, your options are going to be good, right? They're supposedly going to be efficient. So, but then the stakeholder aspect is also satisfied, because they can look at that and say, wow, okay, this is great. Oh, you did that, man, you're killing it. And then they tell your boss, and these are just little things, but I'm telling you, they go a long way. So that's number 8. And then the 9th action item is, oh wow, it's 1:47. Okay, we don't have one more. The 9th action item is let your passion flow. This part is important. You will encounter a variety of roadblocks in this journey. Like, it's not going to be easy, but it's so worth it. I mean, it's beautiful. You wake up every day doing what you love. You're building products that are actually being deployed. You have real human users that are using the product, that can give you real data feedback. I mean, it's what we do is really awesome. And it's a responsibility, because now design has a voice, in social change, in technological change, in uh, consumer experiences, and service experience. Like, we're in there now. Next thing you know, design is running for president. But that's besides the point. So anyway, we're in the mix, but allow your passion to flow. Like, be in, yeah, appreciate what we do. Like, get in the details, like every button, like fall in love with your work, because the moment you do that, um, it's easier when you get pushback. It's easier when something crazy happens on the job, or a feature gets dropped, or it's easier for you to process that than if you're just doing it as a job, as like just a requirement, check the box and move on. So keep that in mind, and let your heart kind of just flow within the entire your entire career, because yeah, you will get those experiences. Trust me, your work is going to be pushed back, it's going to be canceled, it's going to be, even design reviews can get very aggressive sometimes, and kind of cutthroat, but you just have to be able to still go past that and go through that if you're going to be successful, so you don't get burned out. Like, you will, if you're not conscious of that, you could get burned out. You could just get to the point where you're like, hey, you know what, UX is great, but I don't think it's for me, and this and that. I don't like my boss. Look, I'm telling you, it's a crazy journey. It's worth it, but you have to be aware, right, of what it looks like. And then the last action item, I think, yes, the last action item is to follow up after. Oh, okay. So this action item it's not necessarily directly related to everything else we're talking about, because this is on the job. I guess we did talk about some on the job tips. So this is another on the job tip, which I think I would just throw in there because there are some people that could be already employed. What you do, another part of getting a competitive edge, is to follow up after a project is launched or shipped. So that's just like even checking with engineering, gathering, post deployment data and say, all right, how's it doing? How's it doing? Because I had this vision for it. I mean, you've done your user testing, et cetera, but this is like, okay, pass on to engineering, you moved on to the next project, but you don't want to just abandon your baby, right? So it's like following up to make sure, hey, how's my baby doing over there? How's that, that feature we worked on? Oh, it's great. Actually, we got an increase in, 10% in growth here and there. Oh, awesome. That's information you wouldn't have access to if you did not follow up, right? So you're following up on the projects to make sure it's working as intended, but you're also going to be benefiting from that if you gather any data, because then you add it to your resume, to your portfolio, like, hey, look, I built a feature that increased growth by 15% or whatever, and that's a benefit for you. But the bigger part of it is to follow up to make sure it's working as intended, and if there are any updates that need to be done or any tweaks that you can do that, right? So it's still in relation to your passion, to your work, to your product success or feature success, but then you're getting all these benefits with bragging rights, because like on my resume I have like, oh, like this, I built this thing that did 8% increase and this and that, and you can talk about it during interviews, because that's what companies want to hear. Like, how can you bring value to what they have going on, their product or service? So that's kind of where I'll land the ship here. And then let me just read this because I feel like it's important. So after the product or feature has been launched, set a reminder to follow up on user analytics to either identify gaps or validate the UX, right? So you could kind of fill in the blanks there, and then also reiterate, right? So you might have to get back in there and then redesign or fix, etc. That's just part of the job, right? So you're on the job. Welcome to the discipline, and I'm glad you listened to me amidst all this crazy background music. So this is where I'll land the ship, and Randy, over to you.
All right. Oh, that was some good advice there. All right, folks, do you have anything that you would like to ask William while we have him here with us? Anything that you're wondering about, your career journey, things to keep in mind? I loved your reminder there that when you have a project and you're moving on to your next project, get those stats and numbers about what you delivered. It's honestly something I would care to make sure that, like, if there were defects in production and stuff like that, I would get them addressed. Yeah. But I didn't always have the bragging rights I wanted later on when people are like, oh, they're obsessed with numbers on your resume. And I'm like, fortunately, I was able to go back to my boss and be like, hey, do you remember? But yeah, it's a great thing while you're going. Think about some of those numbers and bragging rights and things that you can add to your resume.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's so helpful. I think I saw that on one of my boss's resume, and I was like, I built that. Like, he's taking credit for it. I didn't have access to these numbers. So since then, I was like, I need to follow up. Yeah, it's important.
All right, here we go. We've got a question from Colleen. William, do you have experience hiring juniors, interviewing them, reviewing their portfolios? Any stories you could tell that demonstrate a teaching moment? That's all right. I like that. I like that style of that question.
Yeah. Stories, man, we have a lot of stories. I mean, between Randy, Darian, and just the panelists here. But I would say, uh, hiring junior designers. Well, so I think the one thing for me is like, and I talked a little bit about that, like the experience gap. No, was it expectation gap? Like bridging that, because it could just be the experience, the number of years that are required. It could be, you know, so I'm a very, like I'm a go-getter, I hold nothing back, and I want to achieve it all. But at the same time, you have to be honest with yourself. Like if their job requires like 6 years of experience and you have 1 year, it's like, so, but I feel like there are lots of junior designers that will still try to justify it and, try to get it by all costs. I feel like that's wasted effort, to a certain degree. And this is just my opinion, right? Because you could channel those same efforts into, I guess, a bucket that you're more aligned to and experience and, um, skills, etc., that you may actually win at with that same effort. So like your effort of barking at, it's kind of like you're barking at the wrong tree. But what if you bark at the right tree, right? You might actually get some response and some benefit there. So that's a major one that I noticed. And there's always talk about portfolios and this and that. One of the things that I see missing a lot from people's portfolios, junior designers, etc., is getting there are viral stories of people miraculously getting a lengthy job and it feels like, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be that, right? So that part is always been there before our time, and it's always going to be there. Um, but but our goal is to realize, okay, how can I set myself apart, right? How can I set myself apart to achieve my own feat? Like everybody's direction is different. Everyone's kind of goal. You have to set that destination, come back, define your why, and then map it out. Once you're able to map it out, it's easier for you to stay focused, because all of this stuff there's going to be a lot of noise, right? People are getting jobs, people are doing this, but just like just pause and move all that and focus on your journey, right? Because that's going to be key, to your performance, to your clarity, like your mental stability and mental health, period. Because trust me, all this stuff, it affects your motivation. It affects your enthusiasm, because now you start thinking, well, I know I'm more qualified than these other, than this person that got this job on LinkedIn that updated their status. I know I interviewed for that job, and I'll look at their, you look at their what you call it, their profile, and you're like, but how did he, so I get that, but you have to be able to go past that. The next thing that I can think of right now is a lot of portfolios that I've looked at lack personality. I don't know how, like a designer can add that. I mean, personally, for me, I added mine in different ways and humor and etc. And if I was still looking for a job, I'll be doing more crazy things to my portfolio, but not necessarily breaking the bank or anything, just getting creative, just enjoying it, right? But a lot of portfolios lack personality. Like, show us the person behind this, this website, this page. Like, who is Colleen? Like tell us about you, right? Who are you? Because that's the part that's missing, especially after this, pandemic. We need people, um, that people connection, and you can't get that from the computer. So if we're still using the computer to try to find, great designers, give the hiring manager a little bit of you so they can kind of have that connection there. And let me see, interviewing. So I talked about interviewing and reviewing portfolios. Let me see, what else can I think of? A major one. Um, what keeps you striving for more as a creator? Also, what brings you back to work on a daily basis? Striving for more is just, honestly, this might get like all like philosophical, but it's just because like you were made to just do and achieve. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's really, and I think at first I was like, oh, like, you want to be rich, you want to be able to have, job security, this and that. And then you get past that. Just it's a weird place to be. You get past the money, the salary. It's not even about that anymore. It's just about being impactful, right? So knowing that we are here for a limited time, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's getting the we're getting a little philosophical, but you're here for a limited time. Like everybody's time is gonna come. I'm gonna have to say goodbye. Be like, hey guys, peace out. I'm gonna join the dirt back in the ground. Like this is a little, too harsh, but that's just reality. But there's beauty in that, and realizing that my time is limited. I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna, break my own boundaries, my own achievements that I thought I could never achieve, or feats, etc. So that's really, really what keeps me striving as a creator. I mean, I never wrote a book, and then I wrote one. So just pushing the limits. It's fun doing that, really. And then as far as what brings me to work daily, it's just the job. What we do is really fulfilling, So and then Killian mentioned this. How do you define beauty in design work? So yes, beauty is truly in the eye of the beholder, but I would say defining it's kind of like trying to put beauty in a box. So you can't really define it, but since you're the creator, you would know. Like, and the reason I say that is because there are lots of the designers that during portfolio reviews will be like, oh, so this one is not, look, it's not finished, it doesn't really look right, it's not where I want it to be, so I'm still working on it. That's how you know the creator is not defining that as a beautiful work, because they're trying to make excuses for what they're presenting. You see what I'm saying? So it's inherent that the creator knows, like, hey, this is either beautiful or not. And also I guess the end user can also see that. But overall, see how your work compares with others, see how your work is doing on the market, see how your portfolio is doing. When you look at it, you're going to be the judge of this, beauty. But I think beauty, and it wakes up emotion, right? It wakes up emotion in people. So see how people receive your work. Like when you show your portfolio and you open a project, do people go, whoa, oh my goodness? That feedback is going to help inform you on like where this work stands, right? And trust me, like I've had work that I show, because over 10 years you've worked for 6 or 7 different companies, which I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's beside the point. But so you show, like, there are projects that I would show that I would get like, oh wow, I like that, I like this, I like that feature over there, I like that button. And then there are other projects I would just be like, oh cool, so you pick up on that. But it's just a natural process there. But beauty is just beauty. It's still, it's very um it's kind of like automatic. I don't know. It's a hard one. That's a good question. It's hard to define beauty, but I'd say the creator is gonna know, and then the receiver is also gonna know. Yeah.
All right, folks. Do we have, I don't see anything else in the chat oh, holy moly. We got another one rolling in. It's probably going to be the last one. I think William's probably got something.
Okay.
It says, I've noticed that most companies are hiring mid to senior UXers who can hit the ground running. There's a growing chorus of people asking for junior positions to open up, but do you think that trend is going to gain traction this year and next year? Or do you think juniors should look elsewhere to get that competitive advantage?
So here's my take on that. And it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's I guess I can stop sharing now. It's not it's unorthodox, right? I think that's the word I'm looking for. But yes, you're saying, okay, so yes, there are people hiring, mid to senior, because they need people to hit the ground running, etc. Now that's true, but at the same time, there are people also hiring for junior designers, right? So those are just two true statements equally, I believe. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing, but I have other, like I've given other talks and stuff about how can you get a job to get the job, because you need a job to, it seems like hiring managers are hiring people with jobs. Like I still get, contacted by major companies. I wouldn't mention the names, but these companies, at least 6 to 7 of them just in my inbox, like, hey, well, are you liking PayPal? I just joined. Like, of course I'm liking PayPal. Like PayPal is amazing. I'm not going to leave right now, but they don't stop. And they like, just wanted to check in. It's been 2 weeks. Just wanted to see what you thought. So their recruiters are hiring uh, candidates with jobs, but then if you're a junior designer, you don't have a job, right? How do you fall into that category? So there's a whole process there where you can do like do some work, partner up with startups, etc. Volunteer work for like some social causes that you believe in. But the thing is, you don't want to waste time. Like you don't want to have idle time. Even if you're not working for anybody, you should be practicing, right? So that would be my counter to that whole I guess uneven scenario there. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. But those jobs are in a different bucket, and there are those junior UX designer jobs that are also there. So keep looking, look in the right places, kind of like what I talked about earlier. Also, pay attention to what jobs you're applying to, like applying to the right jobs, searching for them in the right places, etc. And then using the right keywords. Sometimes they won't call it a junior UX designer. It might just be entry level. It might be UX designer. So these are all like deeper ways to decipher what's what, but it takes work. It takes work to really get in there and find that. But once you get that first job and you're able to getting that first job is one thing, but delivering, like doing the great work. I mean, I have another talk about, the effect of like how that's gonna come back and help you in the end. So you have like what you call it, you have breadcrumbs, you have reviews coming in, recommendations that you didn't ask for. I think I saw Darren say one of Darren's posts where he was like, I haven't even asked for a review ever, but Darren's got like hundreds of reviews on his recommendations on his LinkedIn. Like your work ethic, your work is going to speak for you. So that's going to be your your speaker, your I guess your billboard, right? That would go before you come. And that first job, or volunteer work, or whatever startup job, that's really kind of like a building block, because if you do a good job there, deliver, build a product that really works, or feature that works, it becomes easier for you as time goes on. But just keep searching, but not just searching, like, dig into your search, figure out, okay, where are the right places? It's going to require some research and some, some, like we all did it. Like, I did it, right? Like we all do our research to figure out where to apply, what connections do we need, who do we need to get in touch with, etc. It's a whole thing, but don't be discouraged. It's normally part of the process. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much, William. I'll see you around on LinkedIn. Do you have any other content that you would like to point folks to, in case they want to hear more from you?
Yeah, so I try to share a lot of the talks that I'm on, but I get tagged in them, and I've gotten really busy this year, so I'm not super active there. But I get tagged in them. So if you get on my profile, you see who tagged me in what, and then there's podcasts and talks, just like almost one every other day. So please watch them. Like they're all like an hour, 45 minutes long. There's good content in there.
All right.
I think it's going to be
Sounds
helpful.
good. Yeah, we're all pretty active on LinkedIn, and happy to see you there. All right. Thank you also, Darren, for bringing our backup. Sorry.
Thanks, Darren.
To the end. We did it. Yay, team. All right. Tomorrow's gonna
That was awesome.
smooth as anything. All right. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.